Good evening, my name is Garrett, and welcome to The Last Call. Here in 2023, I gotta be honest, it was the first time I really started diving into rye whiskey. Up until this point, I had a couple, and there was a few I liked now and again. But this year, I really honed in my palate and fell in love with what rye can do, to almost an obsession level. And I wanted to break down 5 of my favorite rye whiskeys that I've gotten to enjoy this year. So if you're interested in a more in-depth review over my top 5 favorites, those links will be up above and down below, so you can check it out after the video. And as always, make sure you subscribe to the channel, become a member if you're interested. Either way, let's strap in and go over these bottles. Coming in at number 5 is a bottle that's so big it can't even fit into this bag. It's Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Proof Rye Whiskey. This bottle is phenomenal, and we've been very fortunate over the past couple years to really be eating good if you're a Jack Daniel's fan. And honestly, their rye whiskey is amazing. And as these will always vary in proof points, this one here is 66.5%, but I've seen them go as low as 64, 63s, and I've seen them go as high as in the 70s if you're really lucky. But you get that dark brown. Look at that. That is almost dark mahogany wood colored. And on the nose, you get a little bit of that Jack Daniel's little maple sweetness in there. But the rye characteristics are spicy, a little herbalness going on. You get a deep, rich oakiness to it, a little bit of wood varnish going on, a little oily, a little pepperiness in there as well from that rye spice. But surprisingly, even though it's got that high ABV, boy oh boy, it does not come across in the nose as too hot. It's rich, a little bit of that maple sweetness coming through, a little bit of that Jack Daniel's kind of banana note. But the bold, beautiful rye spice coming out of the characteristics in the woodworks is herbal, a little medicinal, a little floral, and you get these beautiful burnt wood sugars going on. The caramelization this brings across is almost like a brulee effect. It's got a little creaminess to it, but the oak, vanillas, and caramels in this one play together so freaking well. With a little bit of butterscotch in there as well, but overall, this is a sip to be reckoned with. And honestly, it's why it deserves a spot on everybody's list for this year. I love it. My number 4 here is kind of a newer distillery and one that I was excited about talking about, and I could not leave it off this list. And that's Fortune's Fool Straight Rye Whiskey. So this is actually based out of here in Indiana, but they're contract distilling for now out of Kentucky. This is barrel proof at 24 months old, and it's 54.8% ABV. But I'll tell you what, don't let the age statements fool you, because this bottle is just phenomenal. And it comes in at roughly right around the $40 price point. It's rich in color, beautiful dark browns going on here, almost amber-like. And on the nose, it's sweet, little herbal. But as you keep going back, you're getting more of those wood sugars, caramelized notes, the deep oak impact as well. But beautiful soft rye on the nose. Not really your typical 95.5 rye or very punchy on the nose. Just a nice light rye spice to it. And for its age statement and its proof point, this clings perfectly. It doesn't linger so much that you're missing out on flavors, but it is just long enough for you to get kind of a big old picture perfect situation. You get the herbal, you get the medicinal, you get beautiful rich black tea, and this bit of tobacco in there as well. So you get these rich flavors, yet subtle nuances. You get that little bit of the rye grain going on as well. Kind of give me vibes of a rye bread right now, but overall, it doesn't come across as a youthful taste, and it's aged to perfection. And they go through a whole barreling process, which again, if you're interested in that, check out the whole video. But every time I looked at my list of ryes, this was always on there. It never left my list one bit, and that's why it deserves number 4 on my list. Coming at number 3 is a rye whiskey that I fell in love with the moment I took a sip of it. And that is the beautiful and the damned, the Man of Leisure Straight Rye Whiskey. Now, this is being bottled from MGP, and they're taking 6-year-old rye, the 95.5 build. they're giving all the nitty-gritty details of the barreling process, the process of proofing it down. They are going to the extreme to let us know the details on this bottling, which we love the transparency here on the channel. And to be honest, it's hard not to include something from MGP, especially when it's done this beautifully on their selection process of barrels. And right away, beautiful proof point at 50% ABV. You get the herbal, the medicinal, the floral, the rye spices going on here. A little bit of rye bread today. It's both soft and sweet, bringing across a juicy red fruit, a little bit of leather, and just a touch of a cigar smoke in there. The palate brings across not only those rye spices, the herbal and the medicinal, but a gorgeously done fresh cracked mint leaf. And as you let it settle on the palate, it does come across with that little bit of that MGP dill note that it's known to have, but then it's followed up with the charry layers, beautiful oak tannins going on as well, wood sugars, burnt caramels, toasted elements going on as well. Yet again, this is one of the most beautiful examples of MGP's rye whiskey at a higher age, higher ABV, and it's one that deserves to be looked at if you haven't checked them out yet. Highly recommend this one, and that's why it's number 3 on my list. Coming in number 2 is kind of a surprise for me because it really just skyrocketed to the top of my list. And that's Penelope Toasted Rye Whiskey. And yes, this is also coming from MGP. However, they are finishing this in a heavily toasted cask, along with using a mash bill of 100% rye. So very unique. We don't really see too many 100% ryes, especially coming from MGP. Beautiful dark color on her. And this one is somewhat of a newer release for them because it is different than their toasted bourbon as well. But right away, you get this gorgeous dill note. Herbal, medicinal, rye bread, sweet layers going on. It's almost so sweet from that toasted cask. It comes across almost rum barrel finished. And it is to a T, just beautiful. And that 50% ABV mark on there as well. Get that charriness going on in there. You can actually get across a lot of those sweet layers from that toasted cask, but you also get that heavy char as well. The herbal, the medicinal comes across with that bit of dill. This is a dilly bomb, for the lack of better words. It is such a spice-induced sip with that bit of herbal and that rye going on in here. As you keep going through that sip, it gets more and more bread-like a freshly baked loaf of rye bread. Because you're getting those sweet layers from that toasted cask, and it's almost like a dessert bread going on here. 150%. This is a bottle that should be a staple on your shelf if you're a rye drinker. I love toasted casks, and Penelope really hit it home with a gorgeous example of taking 100% rye, finishing it in that heavily toasted cask, and bringing across both the herbal to let it showcase itself, the spirit of rye whiskey to really blossom well, giving you a bit of floral, bit of herbal, medicinal, that dilly rye that MGP is known for, but then that toasted cask comes in here with the sweet oaky charry layers, and it's just perfection in a glass. Coming in at my number 1 was an amazing bottle done by a craft distillery that, in my opinion, is doing some phenomenal things. And I just got to showcase that with everybody. That is Dread River with their rye finished in sherry casks. Now, Dread River is actually based out of Birmingham, Alabama, and they are distilling their own 95% rye, 5% malted barley. That is such a classic build, and they're finishing that in domestic sherry casks. And it is just phenomenal. Coming in at 45% ABV, and again, just 3 years old. And that color on this is gorgeous. Beautiful ambers, light orange going on in there as well. And right away, you're getting all these beautiful sherry notes, giving you that herbal medicinal, but not in the typical fashion. It is a more grain-forward rye spice. And the deep fruit notes that are coming across with that sherry cask play with that so freaking well. And a bit of that waxiness, almost like well-aged furniture, and it's got this beautiful layer of shellac on it. You're getting those rye spices, that bit of herbal medicinal, but yet again, it comes across with a bit more complexity to it. It's got this undertone of the wood sugars going on with it, bringing across a little more floral as well. And because this is an MGP, you're not getting that dilly note in here, or the minty freshness, the sherry cask in this. The sherry cask in here doesn't mask the rye, but enhances it, bringing across this burst of herbal and this burst of fruit going on here, almost like a dark berry or a plum note, dark, rich, velvety fruits, bit of creaminess in there from the vanilla layers as well. But for me, that rye is so unique and it has such a complex layer to it that it is unlike any other 95.5 rye build I've ever had. I love how rich it is because it starts bringing across a bit of a chocolate and cocoa notes for me right now. And that layer of fruit in here is just phenomenal beyond belief. It is coming from a 3-year-old rye whiskey that they're doing themselves. This just took me by surprise to a whole nother level. It's one of my favorite bottles. Not only is this my top rye of the year, it's one of my top bottles of the year because of how complex it's doing for a 3-year-old product. It just surprised me beyond belief. I cannot just explain how this bottle does compared to so many other things in the craft space right now. Bravo to Dread River. They are just a phenomenal team there right now. So yeah, there you have it, folks. My top 5 rye whiskeys of 2023. It was a great year. And again, I could have made a whole separate list of even more ryes because of how many I've had that are just big hitters. And they are an underappreciated spirit that I'm happy to see finally getting a little bit of traction, especially in unique finishes or just coming from MGP in a different fashion. But craft is really what's holding this one tried and true, and I cannot promote rye enough right now for me. And again, if you're interested, make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out the top 5 bourbons of the year, along with my upcoming 5 favorite finished whiskeys of the year here in 2023. And as always, may your last drink of the night be the best one.
You know, and I really like it might